Yeah, incredibly riveting testimony, right? And it's not surprising that the jury would be so attentive to it. I mean, here's the star of the show. This is the whole trial's been leading up to what is this man going to say for himself? I think he did well for himself. That, you know, we've talked a couple of times about him turning towards the jurors, and when he made the action about the shooting, that he was turned towards the jurors. His whole job here, if he's going to try to save himself, is to help the jurors to understand what a chaotic and dangerous situation that was, that he was just reacting as best he could. He had said previously that he felt that his fellow officers were being executed, and he was responding to the best that he could. I really felt that he held up well. I know there were some points perhaps scored on the prosecution's cross, but I think he did about as well as he could for himself.
Right, I agree with you. And we're going to talk more about his testimony in the next segment. So I want to sort of shift while I have you here about tomorrow with closing arguments. Super important. Defense goes first, prosecution goes last, because there's a little bit different in Kentucky. What would you be doing as a plan if you were first with the defense and then for the prosecution?
It's so funny. I was not aware that's the way it works in Kentucky, and that kind of throws me off. But if I'm going first and I'm the defense, I'm going to have to cover everything, right? Because I don't get a chance to respond to anything that the prosecution might be saying. But I have to be driving home that point that he was doing the best that he could under the circumstances that are incredibly chaotic. It's incredibly fluid. He's responding to shots. He's doing the best he can. If you're the prosecution, you got to highlight the fact that, listen, you're trained for this. You should have known better. You were briefed on this. There was some questioning by the prosecutor where she asked the question, did you see that door for the apartment next door? And he said how he couldn't see it. There were bodies blocking him. Her follow-up question should have been, but you knew that apartment was there, didn't you? You were briefed on this. You knew there were neighbors. You knew you couldn't just fire indiscriminately into that apartment building. And that would be the points I would try to make if I were arguing both sides of this case.
Right, and just real quick with your expertise here, again, wanton endangerment, the recklessness standard here, up to 5 years per count. He's facing 3 of those. In your legal expertise as a former prosecutor, criminal defense attorney, explain that in layman's terms, exactly what that element is, intent element is for this prosecutor to explain tomorrow.
Right. They have to show disregard, right? They have to show such negligence and gross kind of disregard for the safety of others. And so, yes, he was doing his job, but by firing, and the point that the prosecution keeps on driving home is indiscriminately. That's really the point. He wasn't aiming at anything. He was kind of aiming haphazardly. Bullets were flying through one zone into the other. Officers are trained to understand that when they fire, they have to be considering what's behind that target. And so was he in disregard of all of that, his mental state when he took those shots?
Exactly. Thank you for that breakdown. We're going to